This is a quick video about using a stencil. As you see in this photograph, a foam brush is being used to pat down paint into the openings of a stencil. When the stencil is lifted, that person will see some cool letters. This is a small stencil I made for the following examples. When I used the stencil for this background, I did not twist the stencil. Instead, I simply slid it or moved it into different positions. This is called translation. If it were happening on graph paper, you could see that everything is lining up exactly the same, except in a different area of the paper. For this example, I did something called rotation. It's like the stencil can spin or move on an axis and then be placed in a new area. This is a good math term to know too. So when you're cutting your stencil, you want to cut it out in the center of your card. In this one, I left a little scissor trail, and that's okay because I can tape it closed. But the hole in the stencil is in the center of the card. This is an example where the stencil will not work because it has a large opening off to the side. Do not do a stencil this way. You might want to create a stencil by folding your paper in half and then cutting a shape and opening it back up. This stencil, you can see, was used to paint with some blue. And here's the back. While I was using this stencil, some paint sneaks onto the back, and in between I started to use a paper towel to wipe the stencil clean. So each time I would use the stencil, the back would be dried off a little bit. On this, you can see that when the stencil wasn't dry, it left some little bits that I didn't really want to have. But some of this is okay because this is hand-printed wallpaper, and this will look more hand-done when those kinds of things appear. We just want to minimize it. So here's the other shape I used for a stencil, also symmetrical and cut by folding my card in half. And here is the wallpaper I created where I was rotating the stencil. Have fun with stencils, guys.